Okay, I'm just skipping the opening thing here, just sort of a spur of the moment. What the hell? Strange topics that come up on Twitter, and they feel like yakking up. Rosetta should be on shortly. In the meantime, uh, we're a little topic cropped up and thing about whether or not ovaries can be donated. Uh, okay, one at the moment, no. There's some research along those lines, but at this point, it's really just theoretical. And I'm thinking a big reason why it probably wouldn't work has to do with the fact that you're not passing on. If it's a for whatever reason, again, not any kind of agenda or anything, but for whatever reason, your genitals, your reproductive organs are no longer there. They got them, and there's a thing where you can have an organ transplant. Up here we go. All right, we're
Hey,
just getting into it here.
I'm in the dark tonight. Sorry.
Yeah, uh, my light switch has gone weird on me, so I can't do the overhead light. So
I
all I got is the thing over here. I got we got this at Walmart, and then also got a lamp over here.
cheapskated all the way, huh?
Yeah, it works. Whatever.
Whatever works, whatever
Yeah.
gets you by,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Magical television. That this thing, got me thinking though about that thing. Ovaries can be donated, right? Well, not really. It's theoretical at best. And I'm thinking one reason why it might not work at all. When I said you wouldn't be passing on your own genes anyway, it'd be the genes of the donor. So it's kind of like what would be the point?
That's actually kind of interesting if it actually would be, because if it could be done correctly, which I don't believe our medical
I
science is
don't
anywhere
think.
near yet,
Yeah, I
then
don't
they
think
could
it would.
actually install it in a way that it actually would just help you create the eggs you already should be. Then it would still be your genes. But if it's creating the eggs just purely from that, then it wouldn't be. So it'd be really weird.
Now think if it's just like I could see a uterus being transplanted where you already have your own ovaries and fallopian tube, where it's just the uterus and the cervix. It's not. It's just. It's really just an incubator for a fetus at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But ovaries, no, I don't think over because again, part of what they do is they're producing new genetic items to be, and that would automatically be flagged by the immune system as this is foreign object, this is foreign material.
Like I said,
So
it'd be. I think if we hit a point in science, we could come up with a way to fix that. But I don't think we're at that point yet.
I think the only way it would be the point was like, well, assuming they survive the transplant process, they probably wouldn't be producing any usable material. So, like, what would be the point of them then?
It's a really weird.
Yeah, it's it's where I think you start getting into medical ethics stuff. It's like, okay, why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish with this move?
And that's the whole thing
Yeah.
that makes things very difficult, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the line we have to draw? What do we
Yeah.
do? All this stuff. And I don't find easy solutions in most of those situations. And
No, I
look,
don't think.
as somebody with fertility issues, I can understand the appeal of wanting to come up with a way to do that.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I just don't see how it would be possible, at least within current knowledge.
yeah. I just got a feeling that it would ultimately prove nope because they wouldn't survive the process, and if they did, they wouldn't produce any usable material.
Yeah, like I said, sometime in the distant future, they may come up with a science that can rewrite the genomes for that and help it accept and all that, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we're there.
Mm,
And I don't really necessarily want us to be there.
no,
There's all kind of ethical situations in that too.
because then we start getting into designer baby stuff or whatever. You only produce this kind of.
like I said, it's this weird line where I think it could happen, and I could understand the appeal to it for women like me. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, can't stay on long because we got an appointment of the doctors tomorrow. Relatively well.
so Ash is there, is the one that was in the conversation with us. He
Mhm.
says he's watching.
Yeah,
So
that's like
hi. He's been very friendly and nice. I
okay.
like him
Yeah,
a lot of ways,
yeah.
but it's kind of interesting to actually document. I don't necessarily agree with all of his points, but I love talking to him. So it's cool
Okay,
to see him in the chat.
okay, that's good.
And
Ah,
hello, North.
mhm.
Honestly, right now, I kind of feel like we're at a point in society where we might end up with the whole designer babies thing, anyways, because we've already got people who are doing things like
Yeah,
picking specific mates for certain features or
yeah.
going through processes to try to increase odds of male, female, stuff like that, or getting the abortions purely because they didn't get the gender they wanted and shit like that. So we're already
Yeah.
kind of in that line.
I don't want a boy.
As it is really a dangerous slope. It is.
Yeah.
So, and meanwhile, I'm sitting here
So I'd
sorting
be
photos because why not, right?
so I'd be inclined to just do you want another baby sex? No, not really. Whatever we get.
I'm kind of in that state where I kind of feel like I don't want to know, and
Yeah.
I was never a fan of the decorate the room in blue for a boy, decorate the room in pink for a girl. I was the little girl who got sick to my stomach every time I was in a pink room when I was little. So I was like thinking how horrible that would have been for me as a baby if my mom had the kind of money to do that stuff.
Mhm.
So
The thing is,
there's a
like,
bias
it's
there.
not like we can take the kid back if we don't. Like, it's going to be stuck with whatever we get.
No lemon laws. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure my sister would have been trying to get me returned from day one. I want a little sister.
well, I mean, my mom's goal when she decided to plan me was that she had two boys and a girl, and she thought, well, we could see if we could have another girl and have so they all have somebody to play with in their level and in their stuff. And then she got me, and I spent all the time with the boys roughhousing and left most of them. So I mean, it didn't work out.
Yeah, well.
She got exactly what she was hoping for, another little girl, but it didn't work
Careful what
out.
you ask for. Yeah.
Be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. Yes. So it didn't work out the way she was intending. And yeah, that's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
No,
You know, between both of our phones chiming,
I'm really just about done with what I'm doing here anyway on this thing. No.
so
Got the points I'm needing. Just finish the game and all right, declare victory.
I do find it hilarious that my mom was so trying to give my sister another little girl to play with, and it just didn't work out. It didn't work out because she'd start doing all the frilly girly stuff, and I'd be sitting there looking at her going,
You got to be
that.
Yeah.
What the crap? No.
Yeah. What the hell is this shit? Yeah.
Now, to explain to people the easiest way so they understand me.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 3 years old, I came up with this dream job I wanted. This was what I dreamed of for my whole childhood, what I studied and trained in and everything else till I was 17 and found out I medically couldn't do it.
Oops.
Which was I wanted to be a ranger and work with the bison in Boiling Mud in Yellowstone.
Aha.
Which tells you how delicate of a girl I was.
Yeah, not very. Yeah.
I don't think that's the normal dream job for a little girl.
No.
And love you, Steffi, sweetie.
I mean, someone's got to do it. Yeah.
Oh, but I would love it. I really would, actually. I don't know what that says about me, though. I mean, but so I moved on from that, and I found out I couldn't do that. Well, I was still within medical range to do the carpentry and stuff, so I went through that, and well, that didn't pan out. I started finding out that I was having serious medical reactions and everything to the treated wood, tearing down old buildings, all that stuff was causing medical problems for my conditions I have. So that went away. So then I went into studying art and literature more and focusing on the stuff I'd always kind of been into while I started working into craft shops and stuff like that. And step by step, every job I took, my medical took me out of as I got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into the photography. So now I'm out with nature all the time now. And I still do help and volunteer and reporting in and helping DNR and the rangers take care of the animals and helping track down and stop poachers while I get to do my photography and my art at the same time.
Okay,
so
eventually it works out.
I found a way around it, so to speak. And it works really well for me. But it was so frustrating as the medical just took me out of job after job after job. And it's like, for fuck's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get to this point where you just feel like you're never going to be allowed to do anything in life, you know?
Start getting to that Max Bialystock line I love so much. Who you got to break in this town?
Oh, Bialystock was always one of my favorite characters. I watched this video that was done not long before Wilder passed away, which was this behind the scenes on producers and stuff with Brooks and Wilder.
Yeah.
And Mel Brooks was talking about creating the character of Max Bialystock.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was actually based on his first boss when he started it basically studying under a producer.
Okay.
Is that the guy always had all these little old ladies coming over who would make out checks to cash after they were alone in the office together.
What a funny name for a show.
That was actually true.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there going, so you're saying that your first boss was a psychotic lech? Gotcha. I mean, damn, but...
The whole making of that movie was filled with things like, there's one point where they're taking a break and he volunteers go down to Chocolate Nuts, get them all sandwiches and stuff. He goes down, and while he's gone, the gal some person who was watching the door took off, replaced by somebody else. He comes back. They don't know who he is. And there's a close-up. No, I'm the director. Yeah, sure. And they get somebody to come out and identify him. I mean, at this point, nobody knows who the hell he is. He was his first big thing, yeah.
I just love that they tried so hard to keep him from saying that line from the actual play part. Because they thought it was inappropriate to have the Jewish guy say that line. But he wanted to do it. He wrote it. I mean, it's not like somebody was forcing him to do it here. Yeah. He wrote it. It was his concept. And when they told him no, he stuck his voice over the guy after they weren't watching. And I mean, literally, according to what he said, he literally pieced his voice over the other guy after the final censorship approval screening, hours before it actually debuted. And then debuted it with his voice over it.
Well, the guy did the line, just didn't have the right joie de vivre, He didn't believe it.
And I'm sitting there going, you crazy bastard. How much trouble are you trying to get yourself in? And for some reason, my mom grew up on Mel Brooks, but she didn't actually see that movie when she was growing up. And probably that just had to do with which ones were available where, because they weren't exactly putting them everywhere when she was a kid. So she didn't actually see that one until I played it for her recently. She has most everything else Mel Brooks has done.
Yeah.
And so I played that for her. She's laughing her ass off, like, this is so wrong, and laughing harder every time she says that. It's like, of course it is. We all know it's wrong.
They had so much trouble getting any kind of advertising or promotion of that movie. It went until Peter Sellers took out a full-page ad in Variety. I've seen this is one of the funniest movies ever. Somebody needs to go out and see this movie.
I'll have to look into that one, Steffi. Yeah. I know I'm more.
Well, I can tell you right now what the story is.
I definitely one sec. I definitely prefer the original overall, but I do like some of the scenes that were added in, and at least they worked with him and they talked with him, and you could
Yeah.
tell that they tried to keep his spirit. And
Well,
my biggest flaw, and it's not even that I don't like him as an actor. Roderick did not have the same spirit that Wilder did. He could not do a lot of those scenes there as well.
I know, yeah. Well, the stuff she's talking about there is, again, it's redoing the Springtime for Hitler number, and they're in an old theater, and Barrowman is, the vocal, in the SS uniform, police blonde hair, springtime for Hitler and Germany. Well, they're taking a break, and he's hanging out outside with all the other guys in brown shirts. And Mel,
Lord!
And they're outside, and Mel, get your ass in there, sir! Holocaust survivors in the neighborhood. They'll shoot us inside. Get your ass inside.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
For God's sake.
And like,
So that's one of those things. Holy shit!
it was designed actually to defend the survivors and what they went through, but it was done to do that in a really offensive way.
Yeah.
And I think the only really serious movie I've ever seen that Mel Brooks did was To Be or Not.
Oh, he actually produced He produced The Fly. And
You know what I'm saying?
But he put him on
one that was not just him as one of the producers, but as everything was his.
Yeah.
All the way through To Be.
Yeah.
Where he actually did a serious movie about the persecution of the gay theater guys in Germany during that time. And it's an intense movie, actually. And that came out the year I was born, actually.
There's still some gags in that one, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Mel shows up dressed as Hitler. Hey, is this England?
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And honestly, most even drama movies still have some jokes stuck in them.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way to break the tension of the moment, add levity. And of course, you're going to have a little of that if it's a drama made by Mel Brooks, because you can't go completely deadpan. But it is actually really historical. It's actually very accurate to a lot of the stuff, and it's actually really deep on a lot of the trauma. And in some ways, it actually kind of shocked me.
No, I think he actually directed The Elephant Man.
I do the other because, most of his movies he's most known for.
Yeah.
He directed, he wrote, he helped create the storylines, he was doing producer work too. He did everything basically on most of those.
Yeah.
That he could get his hands on to make it as much him as possible.
Like The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. He made a point not to advertise that he was the one producing this thing, because he knew what the thing. Mel Brooks presents The Fly. What kind of movie do you expect on that one? It's like, no. Okay. I mean, meanwhile, he is sending memos back and forth. More fly vomit. Come on.
I just was never into that one. I'm not that into true
horror
because to me,
Cronenberg type thing. It's a body horror.
Well, for me, I'm more into things being a little more, how do I explain it?
Yeah.
Thriller, I'm more attuned to than horror. Because thriller has more intellectualism in it, whereas horror is usually based in shock value.
And the mind can come up with far more terrifying things than any special effects.
Especially mine. I mean... Yeah. So I lean towards thrillers, depending on how it's written. I can get into horror. I can't.
Yeah.
99% of the time, because most of it is just over the top shock factor stuff, and I actually end up laughing at it and rooting for the people to die, so it doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh.
So
I had a fun time the other day. I was loading new Dr. Peppers into the fridge, dropped one, it promptly exploded. So I'm stuck with having to mop Dr. Pepper off the ceiling. And wiping it.
Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh at you. That's not how I was meant. It's just kind of funny the way you said it.
It was a mixed day because I had just gotten a refund on something that I shouldn't have been charged for, and it's okay. There's that $30 back.
And I'm trying so hard to save up enough money
Uh,
to replace my computer and to
I
get the other
don't. I
camera I
probably
need.
should. You know, it's the one with Connor Chenier and Dominic Wayne or Dominic Keating. I should do this, but I have trouble getting my own stuff done. Which I am starting to do. Someone suggested doing some reviews of episodes. Okay, yeah. But
I'll be honest, most of the time when I'm doing anything, it's my photos.
Mm-hmm. No, I finally start, doing just started the cage, and I'm going to work my way through it. At some point I get bored, but I figured the original series, at least I can go through that one without having to rewatch everything. Because those things have all been burned into my retina, into my corneas.
I mean, they kind of have with me, and yet I'm still, when I do actually start doing reviews and stuff, I'm actually going to rewatch each thing and get in details.
Yeah. I start getting the later shows. Yeah, I'm going to have to, especially.
I'm going to do it with any of them, but that's me.
I don't have the Next Generation RAM now. I need to get that on Blu-ray still.
I have everything with the original series shows, except I know all the people talk about when they consider it basically the end of Trek, and I'm sorry, I still consider Bakula the end of Trek. I can't stand Enterprise.
Well, it shapes up. By the fourth season, it finally becomes a prequel that should have been.
Yeah, but I can't. By the fourth season, it's already dead to me.
I'm
being honest.
I recommend you watch the videos I do on this thing when I get to that point.
Fair.
It's gonna be a while. Because I'm also talking about the history of the episode and what went on around it. Because this first one, I'm talking about, just the very beginnings of the show. I ran to go through, started MGM. They didn't want to do it, and nobody.
It's like I keep talking about I need to do these reviews and stuff because I've always told people I'm a Trekkie and I want to go through that with people. I fear doing the review of like Spock's brain and shit because fuck that. That episode is such shit.
I'm not going to do reviews in the sense of this episode sucked. I'm going to give you the whole history of the whole thing. Okay, the reason why this happened and why this episode went weird is because this happened and that happened.
I mean, I think I would more, to me, I'd get into all the little quirks and details throughout it. And there might be some history, but it's going to be focused more on what you see.
Yeah.
But that's me, and that's what I fixate on. And that's the difference in why we have the different channels, because we don't all think and talk and interact the same way. Thank God, right? Because that'd be boring.
Oh, yeah. Okay, one episode of one channel been following that Trek World. Used to be Weird Nashville, but now, if that's the way it's going, okay, we're going Trek World. And he's bringing up stuff that I never heard of. Some of the stuff. And that's some serious deep dives. He's finding stuff I never heard of. Okay. Well, and I can relate, gag stories from on the set, from the whole thing about Nimoy and his bicycle.
I could see that.
Yeah. And it helps going through the making of Star Trek. All the memos there. Bob Justman, before they started the second season, he decided to have one on Nimoy. He said, "Okay, listen to all your complaints about the ears. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring in a plastic surgeon that will point your ears once at the beginning. That way, you just do regular makeup, and at the end of the year, we'll bring it back in to put him back normal." And he's laying out. You can see the wheels turning in Nimoy's head. That might have, okay. Finally, no, we're not going to do that.
I'm like, I'm sorry, that's way too much work. Come on.
Yeah. But he was caught, because the thing you find out when you have a piece of latex glued to your ear, you find out your ears do have little subtle movements just in talking and breathing and moving your face. So a part of the very stoic look he always get. That was part of so his ears wouldn't hurt. Keep his face as immobile as possible, so that he wouldn't, get the little subtle muscle movements on his ears.
I can see that actually.
Yeah. Whereas he was also a raging functional alcoholic during that time too. That didn't come up recently.
I mean, come on, don't we realize that most of the people on that set had some serious issues while they were doing it?
Well,
let's be honest.
He never let it interfere with the work.
No, and the thing is,
but the second they give, okay, that's a wrap.
Look, you know that
there's girls down there with the Dixie cup. Okay, we're starting the weekend.
Let's look at this honestly. We all know that I am an excessive Trekkie, especially to the original series stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody who doesn't know that about me by now, I question how much you paid any attention to the things I say and do. I'm just saying, because it's kind of a big thing with me. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But there's times when I question why some people are like, they're so busy being sycophantic in the fanship that they won't acknowledge any of the mistakes or the issues with the actors either. And it's like, or the problems with how things were made or produced, or acknowledge when there were bad episodes, or they sit there and go, well, don't criticize it if you think the show's getting worse. At least you're still getting episodes. It's like, no, that's horrible advice. Shut the fuck up. I mean,
those are members of the Get a Life Club, okay?
I have original series, Next Gen, DS9. I even have freaking Voyager, and he knows I have a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, I need to get, I need to get Next Gen. I want to get that on Blu-ray, get all the remastered stuff.
I just think about
DS9 and Voyager. They're never going to be on high def because the way they made them. They're not going to pull the sales, so they're not going to put the money into it. I got Enterprise on Blu-ray. Got an insane good deal on it. So
I was going to say, I just think about how ridiculous some things are. How well would people respond to certain things? Now, let's see, how do I think about this the best way? I guess the easiest way to say it is, I'm not sure how well some people would respond to it if I did the reviews of certain episodes, especially the Return of Kes on Voyager.
They did her dirty. Okay.
I detest that actress, and that woman's a psycho bitch, and I wasn't a big fan of the character, but what they did was completely destroy half of the plot for the first 3-4 seasons, and how they ended her arc. Also, they could make her into this raging psychopath. I mean, she got arrested for a reason, but the character didn't have to become like the actress.
She wasn't a raging psycho at the time. That kind of went nuts later.
Well,
nothing was happening.
To the level she went, there's some pretty good odds there was probably already leaning that direction.
There were issues, but not full-blown psychotic.
But it's just crazy.
I mean, at that point, they were getting rid of somebody. It's either going to be Kes or Harry. And
can we talk about the way that they, I actually do think there was a bit of a bigoted treatment towards Harry Kim and the character and the actor on that set. They really did kind of just treat him like the little ancient urban boy, and they ignored his character completely, even though he wasn't unpopular with the fans.
No,
they tried to make him unpopular with the fans. They tried to make him nothing. They tried to make him boring. They never promoted him. They never did anything. It's like it's just weird.
What saved his ass from being canned, when Seven came on, was that Garrett Wang got voted one of People Magazine's sexiest people on TV.
Yeah, because no matter how much no matter how much they treated him kind of like the redheaded stepchild, let's be honest, he was actually a well-beloved character, and he was an attractive man in the role.
And he's great at conventions. He still keeps the enthusiasm up. So he's taken it very well.
I just think they should have treated him better. They did him dirty.
He could handle Harry remaining an ensign so long as they give him a part playing like a Klingon or something under heavy prosthetics. He still loved the show. But yeah, they did kind of make it a bit like, shouldn't he be at least promoted to Lieutenant JG by now? There's enough room on that ship for that, at least. Come on.
For crap's sakes, look at the crazy, stupid Tom Paris was always doing. If he could keep getting promotions, how the hell could Kim not get up? Because Paris was a freaking joke, and he was a crook.
Yeah.
And he kept getting promoted.
Well, he didn't go above lieutenant.
Well, it was kind of up and down with him, with how he got his career. It's like he's a train wreck. Mm-hmm. And look, I get that he wasn't a popular character to a lot of the fans. I get that, and he was, but he was a train wreck, and kind of he was the same train wreck that he was back in the Masters of the Universe movie. In fact, just say. Anyway, God, I don't know what that reveals about me that I actually, know that was him.
Well, because they were talking, originally doing like Locarno from the one episode with Wesley in the Academy. We need a Robbie McNeil type. How about just get Robbie McNeil? But I figured they couldn't have Locarno because we saw what he did, and then he got drummed out of the Academy completely. So we need a fuck up, but we don't want Locarno himself. But Robbie does this sort of thing good. So let's just keep it kind of mysterious. What actually happened? We don't want to know. And that way it'll be easier for the audience to accept it because they don't know what happened. So they don't, they're not going to see him and see the disaster that he left in his wake. So
I can kind of get that. Again, it's just a lot of it came off really awkward and weird. And again, I still have the series. There's still stuff in it I like.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit there and say that it was a complete waste or that there was nothing redeemable in it. But
there's 3 episodes I haven't watched yet. Yeah.
If I was actually honestly stating my opinion on each series and which ones are my favorite, they got less popular to me each season, each series, because I was absolutely an original series girl. I really, really am. And then you got this. I loved Next Gen, but it was never quite as good to me as original series. Mm-hmm. And then DS9, as much as it's beloved by so many people, and I didn't get into it as much because I had issues with Kira Nerys and some of the other stuff, and there's just stuff that irked and irritated me. And now I couldn't get into it. The second I saw her, okay. I can't. She's too much a proud terrorist. I cannot stand the character. She's just arrogant. It's not the actress, and it's not her looks or stuff like that. Nana Visitor's a sweetheart. Absolutely, actually, one of the few people from Trek that I actually really respect. So, it's not the actress, and it's like, I'll complain about the character, but I always have to preface that does not mean that the actress was bad.
No.
I don't like how they wrote the character. No, but I think she's a cool actress, actually. I think she's a pretty sweet person.
I liked her approach to the character because there was an interview, I think, in Starlog. Because she's a she's an old gypsy from dancers, and they asked her about, I think, work up some kind of, have her dance at some point. So she'd love that, but the thing is, she's pretty sure Kira had 2 left feet. So it wouldn't be right for the character. Okay, yes. All right, we need someone like this.
Yeah, see,
it's not going to just indulge her own personal whim. No, this would not be work for the character. No, don't do it.
Do you remember the episode that she was on of Night Court?
No, I don't.
She was an escaped prisoner from Bellevue, which tells you something. Who?
Chance to play dirt crazy. Yeah.
She slid between characters, thinking she was the characters from different movies.
Oh boy.
And tried to go psycho on Dan in a hotel, even trying to stab him and other stuff and kill him. It was actually a really good episode. Take care, Steffi, sweetie. Right. But I mean, I like Not a Visitor. I couldn't get into the character,
Yeah.
and I always thought, the original plan with Rolaron I would have actually enjoyed better. But I don't dislike Not a Visitor. I just
Yeah.
the character was so arrogant about the things
Oh.
that she did to people. I couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
was
I
the
don't know
problem.
about that. She wasn't exactly bragging about it. She, but she did.
No, but she was no remorse, and that
Yeah.
really bothered me.
She kind of, I think it was a war. We're fighting for our survival. That thing, but
Yeah, but there's no such thing as innocence.
no.
Guy Sanders, if you're there, you deserve it. Thing she said really made me hate her. If that makes sense.
Well, I think something they touched on. Something the episode Duet, where it's her and this guy posing as this, labor camp commander, and it's like it's one of those things. The best of Star Trek would make lousy movies because the bulk of it is just two people arguing each other through a force field. And it's great drama. That is where this is where we finally figure out what kind of show we're going to make. Where they're no longer doing cast off scripts from Next Gen. This is a DS9. Is it now? Now we have our own show here.
Like I said, I like DS9 overall.
That's where she started.
But I just couldn't get over that. I actually think the best
That's where
character
she started. Where Kira started saying they're coming to terms with, okay, yes, you've done horrible things. It's time to atone to it.
I actually think the best character development they had in DS9 was the Ferengi and Garrick.
That was kind of a mission on Armin Shimmerman's part, because he kind of felt a little guilty because he was one of the Ferengi in the first episode, The Last Outpost.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they kind of came off like spastic monkeys.
Yeah, I mean,
he kind of felt responsible for that a little bit, although he was probably the more menacing of the three.
And to be fair, I mean, yes, I realized they were supposed to be a caricature of an over-the-top capitalistic system.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they made them into soulless monsters, and that didn't quite work either.
They came to their comic relief. They weren't supposed to. They were supposed to be bad. It's like they're laughing at them. Okay, bring back the Romulans. We'll figure out what to do with the Ferengi later.
And that's where I think he did do a good job in his roles, the way they wrote for him. But I mean, and again, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I think he really tried to make his characters brilliant, and alive and hopeful. And I love the growth of the Ferengi. I love the, not feminist viewpoint they gave the women, but the suffragette era of I just want to be able to do for myself and survive on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Not the arrogant, the I'm better than male and all that. Just, can I be on my own, please?
Yeah.
And I loved that about it. And honestly, Wallace Shawn is a nut job, but he's a fucking brilliant actor.
Mm-hmm.
And he always has been.
Yeah. When he was out here at Starfest one time, kind of, it became a bit of a thing for a while for the, what passage of Shakespeare were you going to do? And he did, and he put the mic down. This is strictly him projecting to the back of the room. He did the opening soliloquy from Richard III. With the hunchback and everything. It's like, now is the winter of our disco, and just,
which I give him credit for, because it wasn't.
Nailed it. It's like,
the problem I have with all these people who talk about being such Shakespearean fans, such Shakespearean actors, is 99% of them either quote Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's like, come on, we can do better than this.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more. And honestly, I don't consider those his best works anyways. So, I mean, and I realize some people do, and that's fine, whatever. That's kind of following the crowd, but I get it,
Well, when Patrick Stewart did a thing, he would put this thing. I think he'd do a thing from Henry V.
Oh, they did have, though.
Where they're sitting around the campfire talking about what is a king like.
They did have one that cracked me up, which was it was a live show nerd thing that my husband was watching a few years ago, where you had all of these different Shakespearean actors from different nerddoms, basically warring over on stage who could do the soliloquy from Hamlet the best. And so they kept coming out one after another going, that's not how you do it. This is how you do it.
Oh, God.
Everywhere from Patrick Stewart through Cumberbatch and Ian McKellen and all these guys just arguing over who could do it the best and doing it.
Oh,
It was actually really funny.
yeah.
And it was actually, they each were brilliant the way they did it, honestly.
Yeah.
Whether you like the guys or not, they are brilliant at that. Patrick Stewart is like an asshole, but he's a brilliant actor when it comes to Shakespearean and classic theater.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is a tough speech anyway, because it is sort of, you know, if
the slings and arrows and stuff. The phrasing they use in Hamlet is so artistic that it's harder to hold the emotion in than some of the others, which is why it's considered to be one of the hardest plays to do.
But thinking, as an actor, you look at it, and that thing is just looming there. Like, there's no getting around it. You got to do probably the most famous speech in all of Shakespeare, but you got to come at it like you've never said this before in your life. Make it sound like this is an original thought.
And they did. Yeah. And I had to give them credit. They did it brilliantly.
Yeah.
They all did. And it was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely beautiful. And it was entertaining.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were arguing over who could do it the best, and then after each one could be, no, I did this because of this, and arguing over the traditional theater arguments over how to do it. So it's like, oh my God, this is hilarious. It is so screwed up, but it is hilarious. And I've got to figure out what that was on again. I know, I remember it was some live thing, but I do not remember what it was.
Yeah.
So
now I got this plain Shakespeare, this PBS thing, Acorn Video, and it's the Royal Shakespeare Company from back in the days, mid '80s. Ian McKellen's in there with dark hair. Patrick Stewart's in there. He's already, bald and gray, but he went bald at 19. But he hadn't done Star Trek yet. This is still like a couple years in the future. John Barton is still the director. And a lot of that's, they were there. Ben Kingsley was still there. David Suchet. But then, go on a thing about how you do these soliloquies. It's like, I'm thinking a lot of the tendency is like they're talking to themselves. Like, that's not the way they're written. They're written, you are talking to the audience. You're breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, I mean, he was the original fourth wall breaker.
Yeah. The back then, audiences were a lot rowdier back then. They would yell back at the actors, especially down in the groundlings area. But the temptation of doing that in where to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether to do. Whereas no, talk to the audience. Like, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether there's no
I don't know if you know
the entire thing. Yeah.
I don't know if you know much about my history when it comes to Shakespearean stuff. I literally learned to read on Shakespearean poetry. So
I haven't gone into the sonnets at all.
My brother taught me to read with them when I was 3. I was doing classic literature and stuff with him when I was 5. So I mean, I was turned into a book nerd almost instantly. So
meanwhile, I learned from TV commercials.
So I had this instant pull towards the Old English anyways, which might be why when I start trying to recite my poetry, I start sounding British, which I've never been around British in my life. I do. It's really weird. When I do my poetry recitations, I sound British. I've heard it played back to me. And it's like, wait a sec.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah. I'm not British. I've never been to England. I don't have any actual British friends in real life. And the British friends I have on here, I didn't have till after that was recording for me. I mean, it's like,
I don't know, you ever heard John Barton do the thing of, how it was pronounced back in Shakespeare's day?
I don't know if I've heard him. I've researched it.
Yeah, no, but he was the big one. He usually takes the opening bit from Henry V. The typical thing. Oh, how to use a fire. That wasn't the way they talked. They were a much rougher, hard, They didn't really start.
Yeah.
The,
It was definitely a
you got a
rougher
fire.
era.
And,
It was definitely a rougher era by far.
And so, the American, typical American accent is probably closer to Elizabethan English.
And
So that's when the migration was happening. So they kind of got isolated from whatever happened back in England.
It's kind of like do you remember Robin Williams talking about British Parliament?
Not specifically, but
This is where you say things and they yell shit back at you. You be sitting up there going, "My fellow countrymen,
fuck
you, fucking fuck, you limey," and they'll call each other slurs and everything else.
Yeah.
And no, it's absolutely true.
It's like Congress with a 3% minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
I have watched plenty of Prime Minister's questions. Okay.
And the thing is that the Brits kind of have this like weird line where they're like really dull and kind of frigid half the time.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time they're screaming the C word at each other, insulting each other, and beating each other up, and making the peasants chase cheese down a hill and shit like that. I mean, it's like they're like this absolutely bipolar culture. Let's be honest.
There's a reason why in the House of Commons the rows are a certain distance apart. It's because that's slightly beyond the reach of a typical sword at the time. Okay. So if somebody got crazy, they would not be able to stab the guy across the aisle.
Brits are crazy, I swear. And I say this as something, again, my best friend is over there in England. I'm talking to him on here every day. And we're proud Brits a lot, but they're crazy bastards.
My ancestry goes back to eastern Oxfordshire and further back into Buckinghamshire. Okay.
I mean,
my end time goal is to retire to England in that area.
I technically have relations to some of the House of Lords and the royalty, but kind of defunct since she ran off on her betrothed that she was forced to marry with the Irish slave gardener.
Well, that'll
so we've kind of been rejected by the family at the same time. Yeah, she basically said, "Screw your forced marriage. I'm going to go marry the slave gardener because he's more fun." So that didn't go over too well. Yeah. They declared she ran away and they declared her dead, but the body they buried was exhumed years ago, and there's no DNA match whatsoever.
It's just some broad that found a back alley. Okay.
Basically, it was they didn't want to acknowledge that she existed. So, and we can prove it, but it's not going to do us any good because they hate her guts.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it is what it is. Yeah. I'm with her on that. I would have done the same damn thing, but.
No, part of what I'm digging through ancestry is trying to find, is there anybody, is there a genuine noble somewhere in there? And if so, where's my £1 million? Okay.
But that's the thing is, I actually have so many historical figures, noblemen, chiefs, medicine men, from all these different cultures, leaders in my background. And I grew up this broke-ass, nobody, disabled chick on the edge of the area. I have all of this. My family goes back to the Mayflower.
Yeah.
Directly. I mean, it's on mom's side, and back to the natives that were traveling the land, exploring it on dad's side. I mean,
no, we didn't go to the Mayflower. We right in Virginia. We were the fun ones.
I could have arguments on that.
The Roundheads, got up in New England. The Cavaliers went, further south. We're there for the money. Okay, we're there to set up shop and make money.
I could argue some of that because a lot of the things that people always say about Mayflower and the original Puritans was the psycho Puritans that arrived in the boats over the next few years, not the original Mayflower group. Yeah. So it's a mix, and look, I mean, I agree with fighting for your freedom to choose what you believe. I really, really do.
But it's also kind of invoking Robin Williams again. People so uptight, even the British said, "Get out." Okay.
Yeah, I don't agree with that one though. But I get the joke. I just never agreed with it because I know kind of the
People
history.
that canceled Christmas. Okay.
Again, that was more the group that showed up after, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it, and I don't have to agree with their religion. I don't have to agree with their culture, but the fact that they were having to literally hide in attics and hidden cellars to even talk about what they believed, it was absolutely repugnant. That's wrong.
Well, large part of it, blame Oliver Cromwell. They had to go and kill the king. It's like, deposing him wasn't enough. They got to chop off his head, make an example of everybody. Yeah, okay, that's not going to play well in a few years. The next thing you know, okay, Cromwell dies, and there's no line of succession, and it's like restoring the monarchy because there was no successor to Oliver Cromwell. And just to show how happy they were about what Cromwell did, they dug his body up, chopped his head off, and all that. Mounted a pike of the Tower of London for a while.
We're in a very weird world. We really are, and that's look. I just my viewpoint is pretty simple. As long as nobody's hurting you, shut the fuck up and let them believe what they're going to believe. And I run into these people. I mean, I don't know if you even saw the one I dealt with the other day.
Probably did, but I don't make.
Who basically, her obsessive hatred of Christians is so bad that she literally tried to blame me for the mass murder of my people for becoming Christian.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, lovely people, And I see these people, and it's just like, what does it take to get that kind of hatred in your heart?
Even Bill Maher, as anti-religious as he is, acknowledges Christianity got its act together eventually, so they weren't killing each other, wantonly, killing other people.
Well, the thing is also that
Islam hasn't figured that out yet. That's his big problem with
that. The other thing is, the faith doesn't agree with doing that stuff anyways. But I mean, okay, if you have a problem with some people in a faith, that does not give you a right to judge every person in that faith that way. Otherwise, you're becoming the bigot you're espousing them to be. You can't judge an entire walk of life by the actions of some or even the majority.
Yeah.
And there's no group
Lakota man, that idiot.
Oh, fuck that bastard. He doesn't speak for us.
No.
Sorry. Oh, God. I hate that bastard so much.
Yeah.
He stands for everything that is contrary to our culture and tries to portray it as what we are.
Yeah. I've been slapped back a few times.
Oh, he blocked me when I told him he doesn't speak for us and told him off. He blocked me after saying I wasn't a real Lakota woman. So, I mean, there's that.
Sure.
Oh, I've already dealt with enough of that the last few days here. There's certain people in the family, a certain side that are that way. And it's not most of the tribal family, but it's there. And they were kind of at the family stuff yesterday.
Yeah, but.
And we'll just say I left before everything was done, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it in the happy box. Okay. Yeah.
And we'll be really good if I don't tell off my aunt to be a fucking bitch. And we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Oh, I finally got a civil response. That Steph's gone to bed now. Hopefully asleep.
Yeah.
Got a comment on the response to the indie video where somebody's actually not calling me a dirty old man. Guy put, I'll just go from, wondering, one of my favorite, porno creators doing on YouTube, and then finding this thing. Oh, okay. Getting all these subjects there, and he said, I'm liking this rabbit hole of weirdness. Keep it up. Thank you.
It's like, I am going, my response to these people that say this stuff, who make these ridiculous comments, where they either claim I'm not my culture, or they claim I'm a traitor, or all this other shit, is really just go suck a fat cock and shut the fuck up. Nobody gives a shit what you think. So I mean, it is what it is. I don't care, and
Yeah.
nobody else cares. Nobody loves you, people. So shut the fuck up and piss off.
Again, you're really not speaking for anybody else but yourself,
Mm.
and barely that. Okay.
They get offended because my friends tell them off and they go, "Look, your Calvary's coming." So like, yeah, because you're being a racist piece of shit and nobody likes you. Please understand, it's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
Which the whole classic it's not you, it's me line
Yeah.
that everyone
No,
uses.
it is you. Yeah.
That's actually and I don't agree with all her politics and stuff, but that was actually one of the albums that Lily Allen did, was called "It's Not Me, It's You,"
Yeah.
and it was full of insulting songs telling people off.
Oh yeah.
I love that album, by the way.
Yeah. There's one song of hers that's nice and happy thing, but some of these horrible things you see in walking around London.
LDN.
LDN, yeah.
I don't. I love those songs actually,
Yeah.
but her version of a song called "Smile." Oh my god!
Rings a dull thud. I can't quite place it. What I know.
One sec here.
Yeah, I started getting to the ancestor thing mainly because turns out because of the nature of my father's birth, which I'm not even sure he realized, but had to do with the fact that I was basically to be completely cut off the side of the family. Just like all the relatives I knew had different last names. They were all on my mom's side, or a few on my dad's side, but they weren't.
By the way, the main line I was trying to remember the exact phrasing of in that song is, "At first when I see you cry, yeah, it makes me smile." Then she has a song that's literally named "Fuck You."
Harry Nilsson had one like that.
Eric Idle has one named that. So does Anna Davis. So do a few others. Not that I listen to music like that so much. I know a bunch of songs called "Fuck You."
Yeah. No, it was Harry wanted to make that the lead single off of Son of Schmilson, the record company. No, we cannot put that out as the next single.
I think part of why I like Lily Allen is because she has enough of that classic soul singer style.
Yeah.
And she's got that gorgeous traditional voice and mixed with that mouthy, sarcastic, bitchy side.
Yeah.
And God, they tried to fucking cancel her for a while. Because when she got married, she actually took his name for a while. And it's like, oh, okay, so? I mean, I don't get why this is a big deal. Because she's supposed to be a feminist, therefore, how dare she do that?
We still got to set a point with Social Security to get our situation straightened out. Because legally, Steph is still Smith. Okay, so you got to actually make it official. You don't get the last name changed over. It's just like, and in light of everything that's been going on with it between the 5 years on the road and everything else, and it's kind of fallen down the priority list quite a bit.
I get that actually.
No, it's just that that video is also over 950 views now, so it's making me money. It's just fun to finally answer questions that weren't, like, what are you doing, you dirty old man? Like, someone asked, why are you so interested? And I got to actually honestly answer it. I'm not quite sure myself, but here and there.
I just don't get why some people act like we're not supposed to care.
I know.
What's happening to people?
No, this guy's like, no, you seem pretty invested in this. What is it? She a friend? Ex? What? No, not an ex.
It's like, ew. Maybe because I see somebody who's obviously in a self-destructive spiral,
Like,
and there's concern there.
I should point out I've been a fan for a while. So this is a bit of a sudden change. At least as far as the audience perception goes. I've already got over 24 detransitioners in my feed already. I don't want to have to add another one later.
I've got several too.
Yeah.
I've known several in real life, actually.
Mm-hmm.
With the stuff I do in the inner city stuff. But
yeah,
it's, for all the stuff they talk about, all this talk that they're constantly putting out, where is the talk about the detransitioners or the people who commit suicide because of the medical damage caused, or the people who get cancers from all the hormones being flopped through them?
It's like, the suicide, oh, you want a dead daughter or a live son? How about the fact that the suicide rate leaps after transition? Okay, that whole thing about, no, they're not. Okay.
It does leap. And the thing is that there's so many issues connected to it. And we can't take care of people if we deny them, so we can try to create this narrative.
Mm-hmm. It's really kind of, have you seen the Matt Walsh thing, What is a Woman?
I mean, I still can't stand Walsh.
I know, but in this matter,
he's got it right, but it's broken clock syndrome. It doesn't make him any better than Coulter and Laren and the rest of those fuckwits. I mean,
it is a brilliant movie, mainly because he doesn't do a lot of pontificating himself. He lets them hang themselves with their own words. Get these guys talking, that makes no sense.
I mean, I'll be honest.
And then bring in a few people who know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Full of crap as Shapiro can be, I'd rather listen to him than Walsh any day.
Mm-hmm.
Which tells you how much I regard Walsh.
Yeah.
I mean, look, do I think that some of these people have valid points on some of these issues?
Yeah.
Do I think they irritate the shit out of me and I don't want to hear from them 99% of the time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Also, Buck Angel slapping back one on somebody. They're praying on okay. Don't do the blanket thing for all trans people. Okay.
Oh, don't you love?
Ready to chime in on that one. I think he's talking about the current crop. Okay, where they are preying on traumatized kids.
And by the way, pointing out the ones that are preying on children does not mean we're saying that every person who's trans is doing that.
No, in fact, I've noticed
just pointing out that people are using the trans and LGBT stuff to get embedded into places where kids are and teach kids sexuality and groom and stuff does not mean that there's not that we're saying that the people that are gay or trans are doing it. Yeah. There is a higher rate of sexual assault and abuse in those communities, but not to the level that it's portrayed in media either. However, there's a lot of predators who see those communities as a way to embed themselves in places and use it as a flag to shut people down if they try to keep them from getting in.
Opportunity for a cheap throw. Hey, I'll just throw on a dress, declare myself female, and walk into the ladies' room. They can't stop me.
Or more nefarious than that, actually, for some of them. I mean, it's really pretty insidious what a lot of them are after. And there's some really twisted and dark predators who've embedded themselves in these communities. I mean, look at the case that was going on with Rowling, and I still can't fucking stand her overall, but I give her the credit. She is actually defending female rights here.
Yeah.
She was calling out a case where the Scottish prison system was trying to put a convicted known male rapist in with the females because he said, I feel like a woman.
Yeah. And what did he do? He raped some prisoners. Ooh, shocking.
Well, actually, that case, luckily, actually got so much public attention, they actually recanted it and they didn't move him. So actually, she helped prevent it. And all these people go, "You're just hating on trans people." It's like,
Well,
if you're saying
mhm.
that it's more important that this guy feels like a woman than the fact that he's a convicted rapist and he wants to be put in a place with a bunch of women, then you're not for women.
It's like you are literally
And
putting the fox in the hen house. Okay.
and if you're saying that a convicted rapist being hated means that you hate all trans people, then you're equating all trans people with the convicted rapist.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Call of Duty nonsense. The guy just posted, a tweet from a nut job who blames, the right for everything under the sun. And say, leave the little children alone. That's the whole point. That's all he said. Exact words. And so, trans. Oh, real? Okay. Well, let's dig deeper. Are you equating pedophiles with gays? It's taken decades for the gay community to get rid of that moniker that's automatic, and it's gone right back because the trans activists have brought it back as some kind of weird defense.
And it's really tragic, actually, because they've done so much harm. And look at one of the founders. Oh God, why can't I remember his name right now? One of the founders of the original Pride parades and the original gay movement, was assaulted by a bunch of trans activists for not being on their side enough.
Yeah. That's why you got gays against groomers now. They're putting signs out there saying, "Pride is not for kids. Take your children home." Big old panel truck with a sign. You can see from a mile off.
And the thing is that guy, when he started it, he never wanted them to become sexual. But let's face it, even by the 70s, most of the Pride parades were pretty sexual.
Yeah, they've always been a little wild, but now they're getting addicted.
Oh, I've seen enough footage of some of the ones in the 70s. There's a lot more of them that were ridiculous than people realize.
Oh, I know.
But
there's ones that are going to push the envelope.
I don't believe that should be legal to have those parades in public if they're going to be doing that shit.
Yeah.
And I don't believe any pride parade should be legal unless all people can have a parade to be proud of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually got a lot of gay friends who agree with that, who actually protest the parades.
Yeah, we worked a pride thing down in City Park, and it's like normally you got to pay, a cover charge with a 3-drink minimum. You see that kind of crap, okay?
So I mean, I don't believe it should be that way. I don't, and I'm sorry, kids should not be seeing it.
No.
I have seen plenty of footage since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I've seen footage. Even I saw footage, and my mom tried to shield me from it. And I grew up with nothing and almost no resource to things. Mm-hmm. Where I absolutely have seen footage of sex acts done in the middle of the street in these pride parades, even back when I was a kid.
That's
with kids standing in the audience watching it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but what the fucking hell?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you're doing that. You're a fucking pervert. You're a fucking predator. You're a pervert. You're a degenerate. You belong in jail.
And if you're taking your kids to see this, then you need to lose those kids.
Yeah.
It's long enough so people can have a very serious talk with you about what are you exposing your children to.
I get that it's hard for a lot of us to get a lot of stuff done and fight things and know everything, and it's very hard sometimes as family and parents or other stuff to know what's going on and keep everything away that shouldn't be around them. And I get that.
This isn't okay. They couldn't find a sitter. They made a hey kids, let's go watch the freaks down on Main Street do the thing.
I have known people who didn't realize that's what pride parades did because they bought all the sweet innocent gay people stereotypes that are pushed in the media about them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've known people who didn't realize what it was, took their kids down there and then were aghast and pissed off.
Yeah. I'm not seeing much aghast and pissed off though. Oh, look, Danny, and they're staring right at some guy's ass,
Yeah, and the thing is, I think most of the people that actually are afraid to say it because of how society views it, because of how it's protected.
I know a lot, a lot of kids it'll blow right. They'll just think it's stupid and move on. They don't understand that, but there's still those kids that it will traumatize them. And it's like, this is shit. At that age, this is shit that sticks with you for life.
Yeah, I know all about that.
And
If you're aware,
it starts,
so even as a teenager, even at the age when you're experimenting sexually and stuff,
yeah.
when
Well, at
it's
least thinking
something
about it,
being
yeah.
put in your face or something being done to you without your consent,
Yeah.
the trauma behind that is incredibly.
Yeah.
And Ashes, I agree on that, and I'm very open in my tweets and my comments about the fact that I am in that lifestyle, and I still don't agree children should ever see it.
Yeah, she's not doing it in the fucking main street. Okay.
Look, I've got no problem if people want to be rough in their sex life or do crazy wild shit or anything, as long as it's consenting adults.
Yeah.
But when you start trying to involve children, animals, or you're not getting consent, then you belong in prison. And I hope you get a butt buddy who will teach you what you did to others. I mean, just saying.
Welcome to general population. Oh, by the way, this guy's in for molesting kids. Have a nice day, clunk. It's like his life expectancy will be measured in seconds. Okay.
I don't know. Sometimes they'll let him live for a while, but they'll torture the shit out of him for days.
Well, true. Yeah, depending on how much fun he is. But yeah, the life expectancy of child molesters in prison is not long.
So look, I mean, I'm anti-kink shame, I'm anti-victim shame, all this stuff. I'm very vocal on a lot of this. So it gets very easy for some people to talk shit with me.
Yeah.
Because they sit there and go, well, you do this stuff, you do this stuff. It's like, yeah, I don't do it around children. And I don't tell children about it.
Don't do it
I don't believe children should know this shit. And I'm sorry, but there's a borderline. Do I watch inappropriate, crass things? Do I watch twisted animes that are cross lines of shit? Yeah, I don't care. Fuck it, I'm an adult.
Like in all those thousands of pictures sorting through, I'm pretty sure that we're never going to see anything with, in the bedroom.
No. I won't say I've never done pictures of that, but they're not.
I wasn't going to ask. I was not going to ask. I wasn't going to assume anything. That's strictly on you.
I don't really care if people don't, honestly.
If you want to admit to it, that's on you. So.
There was this whole issue a while back with this certain two-lettered group of antis that decided that they were going to try to threaten me by showing me that they found my old pen name stuff and found stuff I used to write, and they were going to out me for writing erotica. This was when I was shyer, before I was open about a lot of this stuff. And I looked at the tweet for a minute, and I looked at this, and I looked at it, and went, I retweeted it out and told people what I used to write, and that they're trying to intimidate me about it. And I went up about 1,000 followers and got a bunch of messages from people asking me if they could read it. So I was like, good job. You made my channel and my page grow.
God.
You dumb fuck.
Kind of like they tried blackmailing Mecca, and I went, oh, she dug it up, posted herself. Really? You're going to try that?
See, and I still can't stand her anymore. But,
I know,
but that stuff is still stupid. I mean, stupid shit people do. I mean, get a grip. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Hell, I can tell you honestly, actually, I will not name any names, but there's a lot of people, including some bigger channel people that I know, who sent me messages that actually made them like me more because they've been in those kinds of movies, or they've written that kinds of stuff, or their wife writes that kind of stuff, or stuff, and they're telling me this stuff, and they're giving me names to look for. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit.
God.
I'm sitting there going, are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit.
God.
I'm like, well, you must trust me a lot for giving me this information. And no, I'm not going to name names.
No.
This was friends trying to support me because somebody was trying to dox me on it. I wouldn't dox them, but I laughed my ass off because I'm sitting there like, holy shit, this tells me how many of my friends are degenerates. I mean,
oh, God.
Or the ones that think they're going to intimidate you. You're going, you're fat. It's like, I have several metabolic conditions. It's been a decade trying to be anorexic because I couldn't lose weight. No fucking duh. I already know that. I'm pretty sure I'm well aware.
I am? Oh my God, I am! Thank you for telling me. I'm so worried. I thought, wondering why I, was getting out of breath. Fuckhead.
I'm fat, and yet
Yeah.
I do all kinds of activity all the time.
Yeah.
And in fact, a few days ago, I actually did the longer, more advanced cave tours, climbing down the hundreds of stairs into the center of the earth down in Wind Cave here a few days ago. And yeah, do you know how hard those are? Okay, tight corridors.
Yeah.
Steep steps that are very narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Damp because you're in the caves, and even dry caves, there's a lot of humidity.
Mm-hmm.
Crowds.
Yeah.
Even when you're not on the steps, you're going steep up and down and through places where you have to bend and get in through and stuff. I did this.
Yeah.
I did this on Thursday. So
I'm not fat. I'm sensitively fat.
well, the problem with the cave tours is I have spinal damage. I have knee damage, both of which are from injuries that were done to me as a child. Well, and re-injuring the knee doing something with my husband, but that's another story. Anyway, I have severe asthma and breathing problems. I overheat easy. I have anxiety and crowd issues and claustrophobic issues.
Mm-hmm.
I did fucking cave tour for almost an hour and a half of climbing.
Yeah, that's not taking on your fears. I don't know what.
Also, that's actually considered to be advanced hiking and exploration.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the kinds of stuff that you're supposed to be physically fit to do.
Yeah.
I did it just fine.
I know as a little kid we went to Cave of the Winds one time down south there, but I don't remember anything of it. But I know we went to it. Yeah, the one thing my parents made a point of to see all these sites, while we were little, and the Cave of the Winds, Seven Falls. I remember Carlsbad Caverns. I was old enough for that. I remember that.
I would go back and do Jewel Cave too if I thought I had time to recover and get the strength to do it before I have to go home. Yeah. But I'm supposed to be trying to go home this next weekend, and I've got a lot of stuff left to pack, and I'm still recovering from all the stuff I did this week. So I got exposed to a lot of shit I shouldn't. Things I'm allergic to, things I'm medically sensitive to, stresses on my nerves and stuff, and I am not in great shape right now from that because that's not something I did to myself. But it's causing some issues. So
add in assholes online and okay.
Oh no, those guys are just virtual punching bags for me to keep my stress out on. I didn't say that.
Let me get back on your phone.
But there were great moments in that, like the blooming cactus.
Well, because I'm going back to the 70s. Everyone, anything? Yeah, my youth. Okay.
You're going back to the 70s. I ain't gonna be there. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm not gonna be there. So I mean, I have cave shots here, and stuff I have to go through, but it's like I found the chipmunk the other day. It was so cute. But the one I was going to get to here, because it'll make people's sensitive feeties hurt, if I can get this to show better. Come on, show better.
Okay.
Maybe I should just send it to you so you can share it.
Maybe,
This one's not going to come through very well for some reason. 1 second here. I can make this a lot easier.
Pictures from one of my detransitioners in my list of things. She got lucky, and because she wasn't on testosterone constantly. She took a few months off one time, but it was enough that her voice is somewhat low. It's still very, but also every other woman in her family has huge tits. Hers are pretty small. She'd still look
I'm
very young.
showing you this partly because you know how allergic to dogs I am. So the fact that I took these
Ah.
pictures should warn you how I was doing. Because I took these
Oh.
Thursday night.
Let me pull this back up. Massage.
Starting from first to last because it does make a difference in the story it's telling.
Oh, yes. Let's pull that up here. And it's like, folks, think you're having a bad day. You could be that prairie dog. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The prairie
You
dog
could be
being the
that
thing
prairie dog.
hanging out of the coyote's mouth. Yeah.
Oh, it's a very happy doggy.
Oh yeah, he got his meal for a while.
The problem is I am allergic to dogs and I'm allergic to rodents, and I was taking those pictures.
Yeah.
So,
that was a good telephoto lens.
borderline because I can't use attaching lenses, so it wasn't directly next to me, but it was pretty close.
Uh-huh. Oy, oy, oy. Ugh.
Well, my kneecap got injured when I was a little kid. It got re-injured when I was in college when I got run off the road by a psycho driver, and that knocked me down a cliffside into a railroad spike. Then I got re-injured with my husband, and that's a whole different story. And you don't need details of that one.
We kind of touched on that earlier, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashes.
The things that will not be discussed in public.
As long as there's no kids around, I don't really care about most anything.
As long as you're not doing the street steering the kids and the horses, okay. Yeah.
That's kind of the point I'm at in my life is I don't really care what I do as long as there's no kids around.
Yeah.
All the better, right? But to palate cleanse for that, the newborn fawn twins. They're precious little things. They were literally learning to walk when I found them, which if you know deer, depending on the species, it's between a half hour to an hour it takes them to learn to walk.
Yeah.
From birth. So the fact that I got there in time to watch them waddling around trying to learn to walk.
Okay. That phone's charged.
And it happened to be the deer that was one of the twins that my mom was watching over when they were orphaned in winter a few years ago. That is the mother. So it was actually really sweet.
Okay, I had a little thing that clarified to me regarding Pete Best being fired from the Beatles. Because I kind of get the impression that, when George Martin told Brian they were going to bring in a session drummer, that kind of, he didn't say get rid of Pete. He said, for recording, we're going to bring in somebody because Pete was not good in the studio. He was great live, but but recording wise, he would struggle keeping time and stuff. And then we got to bring in a session drummer. The impression I kind of got was that Brian Epstein, misinterpreted that and said they want to get rid of Pete, and which was a little beyond what George Martin said. He didn't want to get rid of Pete. He said, for recording, we need to use somebody else. And they used that excuse to dump him, bring in Ringo. They like Ringo better anyway. So I'm going to have that clarified. No, Brian did not misinterpret anything. He knew it was just for recording, but the Beatles, again, they were getting sick and tired of, Pete's stuff. And again, they liked Ringo. Ringo had the same kind of sensibility they did. And apparently Brian actually was trying to get him to keep Pete. No, we don't like Pete anymore.
I mean, what are you going to do if you find somebody an irritating jagoff?
Well, Pete's thing that he was an okay drummer, but they needed more than just okay. They He had no interest in getting better and advancing them. Ringo, on the other hand, he's what you might call a musical drummer. He doesn't just keep a beat. He does stuff with the drums. He's actually playing it like an instrument. And he wanted to advance, so.
And let's be honest here. I've already said I'm not that big of a Beatles fan.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they're bad, but I list them in the piles of groups that I think were good but have been way overrated by people over the years.
Well, the Beatles really is more for the effect they had,
and
it's what
that was actually what I was getting to there.
Yeah,
I respect and I honor what they did for music. I don't dislike them.
Yeah,
and they were talented, but this like obsessive, they're the greatest ever attitude is weird. It's the same viewpoint I have of Elvis. It's the same viewpoint I have of Metallica.
Yeah.
It's not that they're bad. It's that the obsessive like worship of them is over the top.
Yeah.
And while they're good,
they're
not that level of good.
Yeah.
But I don't say that maliciously either.
Yeah.
I say that going, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's an old line that, the luckiest day in Ringo Starr's life was when he got hired by the Beatles. But by the same token, the luckiest day in the Beatles' lives was when Ringo Starr joined the Beatles. Because he was already pretty well around Liverpool. He was very well renowned as, but it's like only around Liverpool. So, outside of Liverpool, you're who? So,
he fit with them better.
Yeah,
and
he was making a name for himself. He already been with a few groups at that point.
I mean, I sit there and I say I don't consider them the greatest, and I think they're overrated. One of my favorite things to watch as a kid was The Point.
Mm-hmm.
Have you actually seen that?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. The Point is a animated movie.
Okay.
Narrated by Ringo.
Okay.
The music throughout it was done with different people from Beatles, and it's very classic 60s rock style.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The special, while it's a sweet story against bigotry and stuff like that, it kind of reads like an acid trip because it's very 60s animation and music.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say I don't consider him the greatest, that was my favorite thing as a kid to watch. And I still like it. I still think it's a good special.
I remember Yellow Submarine as a little kid when that came on.
When this is done, remind me to play one of the music videos from Inside the Point for you so you can kind of see what it's like.
Okay, yeah. I may have seen it. I don't know, but that's okay.
Royal.
I was rather surprised though when I found out the Beatles did not do the voices in the movie in Yellow Submarine. But also point out that in real life, unless you really know who's talking, they all sound alike for the most part. Paul's the only really distinct voice, of the four of them.
I don't know. I've seen very relaxed interviews with them and more they're in life, and I can still tell them apart. But then again, I've always been very keyed into voices.
Yeah, and then it's like if you know them a lot, you've heard a lot of them, you can pick out. That's John. But if you're not that familiar with them, you're not going to be. Maybe Paul, Ringo a little bit, but I think stuff.
Well, they all kind of have that same accent.
Oh, that Liverpool accent.
And they're all in a mid voice.
I'm working on it. God damn it. But you kind of point out, the stereotypical, John is sort of a bit, and George is the more thoughtful and Paul is sort of sing-songy, and Ringo's on here, nobody does me.
They're all kind of mid-pitch and vocal tenor.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all got that same accent, so their similarities are very strong.
Yeah, their actual voice, they're all really around the same, around the same thing, though.
So I can see that part. I mean, that part doesn't get to me on that. I get that, but yeah.
Well, there were plenty of other groups in Liverpool at the time that could have, but Beatles had something with like partially
Charisma.
their stage presence and other stuff. Yeah,
Let's be honest, it was the charisma. It wasn't
Yeah.
the talent, because there were. I've heard some of the other bands that were in that same era at that same time.
Mhm.
They were better.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that they were the best band. They
I was going through records up at KG&U, and Jerry and the Pacemakers was put in a schlock. This is not schlock. Who the hell? What kind of barbarians did that? I pulled it up. I was offended.
Barbarians out of this shit. I mean,
I was deeply offended. Jerry and the Pacemakers was not schlock. There's actually another one of Brian Epstein, another band that Epstein, he assembled quite an arsenal there of groups. All right.
I can hear the bugs outside the window chirping.
Yeah, and we do have to get going, so we probably should wrap it up now. So.
Yeah, let me find that video for you while you wrap it up.
Okay. So and we're about an hour and a half's good. So we'll catch you later, kids. Ashes, be sure to come back. Okay.